6 p.m. in Kolofata in the Mayosava division of the Far North region of the Republic of Cameroon, same time in Douala, Cameroon's economic capital city. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. With me, I'm Sean Sander. In our top stories tonight, a landmark verdict rocks the nation Cameroon as Dagobert Noir gets death sentence for Matisse' murder. A nationwide outrage meets a court-bold decision that has been rendered a few minutes ago in the nation's political capital city, Yaoundé. Plus, in this edition of the news, Cameroon's upper house of parliament gets a new president. Lamido of Rebuba, Lamido Abubakari Abdullahi, has replaced Masenya Njifenji to be the president of Cameroon's upper house of parliament, a vote that comes few minutes after that of Cameroon's National Assembly. In this edition of the news, we shall be asking what next for the judicial system in Cameroon after the landmark verdict, but also what next for Cameroon's lawmaking institution, that is the Senate. These stories and more will be yours in this edition of the news. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Thanks for making the right choice to be informed by Equinoxe television. You are on to the primetime newscast, and we live from Douala, Cameroon's economic capital city, Equinoxe Central News Desk. Thanks once again for choosing to be with us. Now, we're starting with one of our top stories to say that Dagobert Noir has been found guilty for the killing of 6-year-old Matisse in Yaoundé. He was sentenced to death by a firing squad. He is also to pay the sum of 400 million francs CFA damages to the victim's family and 100 million francs CFA in interest. Immaculate Fogel comes back to the circumstances that led to Matisse's death in Yaoundé.
10 months after the tragic death of 6-year-old Matisse, the Fondi court sentences Dagobert Wafo to death by a firing squad for the murder of the child. The court ruling was announced with the prosecution citing premeditation as a reason for the severe sentence. Matisse was stabbed to death on May 10, 2025, following a dispute between Dagobert Wafo and the child's father at a local bar in Yaoundé earlier that day. Raged by the situation, Wafo allegedly went to the family's house, found Matisse and stabbed him multiple times. The child died shortly after being rushed to the hospital. During one of the court hearings, Wafo had claimed amnesia due to intoxication, but the court rejected his plea, deeming the act premeditated. The case sparked widespread outrage and calls for justice, with many demanding protection for children and stricter laws against violence.
And we stay in human interest across Cameroon, and this time around in the Littoral region to say that at Petit Bonanjo, that is in Bonandale neighborhood of the Douala 4 municipality, a 43-year-old man was nearly lynched by local inhabitants, angry following allegations of assaulting his 2-year-old niece. We have details with Lom Manyekro in the following report.
The 43-year-old man is being beaten by the angry resident over the allegation he raped his 2-year-old niece. Alerted by the shouts of the child's aunt, the angry population of Bonindale barged into his house and pulled him out. The suspect was rescued from the wraps of the population by the gendarmes, who arrived to take him to the brigade. Interrogated, he justifies his action to the Bible he reads.
Il dit qu'il est dans une église du côté de.
He says he is in a church where, when he reads the Bible, it makes him react like that. According to the neighbors, the minor had told her aunt how her uncle used to touch her.
L'enfant est resté une fois dit
The child once told her aunt that her uncle is always putting his fingers in her private parts. While the suspect is in the gendarmerie detention for further inquiries, the minor is presently under medical observation at the Douala General Hospital.
And the population of Mabanda, still of Bonaberi in the Douala 4 municipality, is lamenting over the dire garbage situation in their neighborhoods, where heaps of waste are scattered across streets and markets, posing a serious health risk to local residents and traders. Food vendors are now seen selling their food amid filthy conditions. Immaculate Fogwen, the following report takes us to the ordeal faced by the local population in that part of the city of Douala.
Plantains, pineapples, mangoes and other food items being displayed close to garbage heaps at the Mapanda market in Bonaberi, Douala 4 subdivision. Traders sitting near the waste have been dealing with a pungent smell for months.
The garbage being here, it has been here for over 2 weeks now. It is smelling. You see people selling around all the items they are selling. They have closed them because flies and odor that is emanating from it is very...
A similar garbage crisis is unfolding at the Ancien Road neighborhood, still Douala 4 subdivision, and also at major entry streets into Douala, sparking outrage among locals.
If you can look at the environment, you see that everywhere we have just abandoned everything to stand like that. But each and every year they do pass here, they collect import, they take this one, this tax, and we are paying it. No, when it's raining, we don't survive here. Even when it's too much sunning, we cannot stand by because it's really smelling. Us that we are walking here, we are walking behind. We cannot walk here in front again. And even customers, when customers are passing along the street, everybody is trying to cover the mouth. So because of the type of smell that is coming out from this place, so that's it. So as we are walking here, we are not breathing. We are not fine. So at times we have product that we used to come in the morning. We throw it here before we can...
While they blame the Douala 4 Council for neglect, the Mayor, Professor Edward Eve Mobimpa, attributes the issue to Genecam, the new hygiene and sanitation company still getting settled.
La communauté urbaine qui a la charge.
The Urban Council recently awarded a waste management contract to Genecam, replacing Izakam in Douala 4 subdivision. Genecam took over on January 15th. It's a new company and it will take time for them to get fully operational, which is why you are seeing waste everywhere. We are aware of the issue and I believe they will get things under control in the coming days.
Nous sommes conscients de ce problème.
Nous sommes en train de faire un très bon...
Genecam CEO Matamba Jacob says they have been operational for 1 month and are overwhelmed by the huge quantity of garbage in the Douala 4. According to them, they work at night and collect at least 21 trucks of garbage daily, but struggle the distance to the Pekadou's dumping site.
De la mairie de Douala 4e, nous avons essayé de faire...
As the population waits for Genecam to get the situation under control, residents remain prone to waterborne and airborne diseases and users struggle to navigate the streets clogged with waste.
And at least 2,200 people have been left homeless and without basic necessities over 20 days after devastating fires tore through the Kolofata internally displaced persons camp in Cameroon's far north region, a site already sheltering over 74,000 people. Close to 2,500 victims, men, women and children, are now being faced by worsening humanitarian crisis with no food, no clean water, no electricity and no access to medical care. They are abandoned on their own as there exists no government action on the ground. Innocent as it has the rest of the story for you and I.
More than 2,200 people are now stranded and abandoned in dire conditions following devastating fires at the Kolofata internally displaced persons camp in Cameroon's far north region. The camp, which hosts over 74,000 internally displaced persons, was recently hit by a series of blazes, leaving at least 2,297 victims directly affected. For more than 20 days, men, women and children have been left to fend for themselves without food, potable water, electricity, clothes, or access to medical services.
Small kids say you don't sick, we don't get to manage to go use and go to hospital. That's why we need help where.
The humanitarian situation is rapidly deteriorating, made even more severe by the ongoing Ramadan fasting period, as vulnerable families struggle to survive under extreme hardship.
This fast is don't finish now. We need the women in a wrapper and use her. We say now cloth we need. Small people say that they use cloth.
Although a one-time relief effort was carried out by a local elite in the presence of administrative authorities, it has fallen far short of the overwhelming needs on the ground. No humanitarian intervention of the government has so far been witnessed.
La plus belle femme du monde ne peut donner ce qu'elle a. J'ai amené un peu de dons, même si ça n'atteint pas à toutes les personnes touchées. J'ai amené pour 400 personnes.
Tensions have already erupted during food distributions, with desperate victims scrambling for the limited supplies available, an indication of the growing despair and urgency in the camp. As the crisis deepens, affected families are making an urgent appeal to state authorities for swift and adequate humanitarian intervention.
He don't use his small in power, equal user for us. Some people say, make they help us,
Nous appelons le gouvernement à intervenir en urgence. Le feu a tout détruit, vêtements, vivres, abris.
In a separate act of solidarity, inmates at the Mora Central Prison who live in precariousness have also received support to break their Ramadan fasting.
On demande au gouvernement si on...
Local elites are now calling on the government to facilitate the safe return of displaced persons to their home villages, while also urging the establishment of security outposts to protect them.
And from the far north region of Cameroon, we're taking you down south up to the southwest region to say that the installation of a second-class chief in Gap village, that's in Tombe subdivision, Kupe Maninguba of the region, is causing what locals qualify as division among the natives and the local administrative authorities. According to the chairman of the Tombe Chiefs Conference, the administration played a fast one on them before the installation of Ngale Theophile Saleh as the second class traditional ruler of Ngap village. The kingmakers of the locality are now calling on administrators to do the right thing, while the newly installed chief on his part says he needs collaboration from the local inhabitants and local administrators. We have a roundup with Smart Njikan Gabriel.
March 6, 2026, the people of Ngap, a village in Tombel, welcomed the senior divisional officer of Bangem, who came for a supposed consultative talks for the selection of a new chief of Ngap village. But surprisingly, the event was turned into the installation of a second-class chief for Ngap.
I was very surprised to be informed 2 days before that the chief was going to be designated for Tombe, not knowing that they are only coming to install a chief who had not been consulted in the Tombe town where we all belong. Secondly, I was taken aback to notice that the kingmakers of this Tombe chiefdom, who are supposed to come from all the 5 villages of Kremesanga, were informed only the same day that the meeting was taking place, a mafia to cause them not to be present.
According to the chairman of the Tombel Chiefs Council, he wasn't consulted before the installation.
Nobody had asked me to know who should be the chief of Tombel. Nobody has asked the Nkemesanga people, despite the fact that the very SDOs at the same time asked the Nkemesanga people to present a list. The young man who is designated as chief is not even an aborigine of Tombel. He's not a son of Tombel. The forefathers came from elsewhere.
He adds,
during the program of the day, my name was not mentioned because they realized that what I will present them will cause a problem. because I was not going to write what exactly we're going to please them.
The newly installed chief, on his part, says, I have just been selected as a second-class chief of Ngap, Tombel, and I know the task ahead isn't easy, and I know I can't carry out the task alone. So I'm calling on the collaboration of the kingmakers, notables, elites, and government for us to rule the village. During the ceremony that saw the installation of Ngalet Sofil Saleh kingmakers from Gap 1, Nsuke, Mbule, Mbabe, and Damijob were all absent. Ngap Tombel has been for 4 years without a ruler.
And from that story, we take you on to politics. As we told you in our top stories that Abdullahi Babali, that is Abubakar Abdullahi, who is a Lamido, is now the new president of Cameroon's upper house of parliament, call it the Senate in Cameroon. The Lamido of Reboba in the North region takes over from Masenyat Njifenji after he was elected in an elective session yesterday in Yaoundé. We have details in the following reports compiled by staff lady Annabila.
A senior traditional ruler of the vast Lamidate of Reboba in the North region, Abdullahi Abubakari began his career in public administration. He has been the Lamido of Reboba since 2026 and heads the CBDM Central Committee's permanent regional delegation in the North. A civil administrator trained at ENAM, Abdullahi Abubakari also serves as Secretary of State for Agriculture. He previously held several government roles, including heads of records and archives at the Directorate of Presidential Correspondence and research officer at the Directorate of Legislative and Regulatory Affairs under the Prime Minister. The roles reflect a career combining administrative experience, traditional authority and political positioning. Taking office at the Senate at 61, Abubakari Abdullahi is now the constitutional successor to the President of the Republic in the event of a vacancy. Under Cameroon's constitutional framework, the Senate President assumes interim leadership in such a scenario, with a mandate limited to organizing a presidential election. The 61-year-old Abubakari Abdullahi was elected President of Cameroon's Senate that was on Monday, and he becomes the second person to hold the position since the institution was established in 2013. Abubakari Abdullahi succeeds Marsenyan Jifenti, who was a pioneer president of Cameroon's upper house of parliament. Abubakari had served as a CPDM senator from the North region since 2013 and had until now served as the Senate's vice president. Going beyond institutional succession, the appointment of Abubakari Abdullahi reshapes the balance of power, placing at the head of the upper house a figure already versed with the activities of the Senate.
From politics to cultural diplomacy to say that the Bassa community is gearing up for the 3rd edition of the Insat Traditional Festival themed Essu du Gemin. To drum up excitement, traditional chiefs and stakeholders hosted a press conference at the Chief's Palace in the Nokbong neighborhood of the city of Douala, precisely in the Douala Free Municipality, sharing highlights of the March 21st to 28th celebrations. Law Maniero has details in the following report.
The existence of over 250 local languages in Cameroon, including within the Bassa people, creates a social and cultural division rather than unity. As the Bassa community prepares to celebrate the Insat Traditional Festival under the theme Essu du Gemin, which means born from the same root, it will be described as a vibrant tribute to their origin, unity and cultural pride from March 21st to 28, 2026 at the paramount chiefs of the Bassa clan, Stade Marion and the premises of the Douala 3 Council. His Royal Majesty Mbodi Epe Gaston has called on all the sons and daughters of the Bassa land to embrace the spirit of brotherhood. He says the theme of this 3rd edition reminds us that the community is not supposed to be opposed to each other, but to love themselves as brothers from the same root. The Bassa community invites all its citizens to cultivate unity, respect, and harmony. An important aspect of the 3rd edition is the crowning and honoring of women of the community according to their titles. to crown the queens, those alive and in function. We have 2 of them for this edition, a widow and another who is still active. Visitors from across the country and beyond are expected to attend indeed, experience excursions, cultural performances and more. We are expecting all Cameroonians, even those who are not Cameroonians, to join us for this important cultural festival. As the countdown begins, Bassa traditional authorities says the Sa festival stands tall, not just a celebration, but a testament to the cultural resilience and unity.
And before we continue, we'll come back to the breaking news story across Cameroon. The major verdict, as I told you in our top stories, that has rocked Cameroon, that of Dagobert Nwafo, who has gotten a death sentence for Matisse' murder, a verdict that is falling from Cameroon's political capital city, Yaoundé. Now, on to this breaking news story, we are having reactions coming from the 4 corners of the Republic of Cameroon. We take exclusively that of a legal man who was part of the team of lawyers on the case, Barrister Berinu, who is reacting from his chambers in the city of Douala. Here is reaction. He says the verdict to him is quite okay and on point. Exclusively have his reaction on Equinoxe Television News.
I'd like to say that, as a matter of fact, I am satisfied by the decision that was given. You know, we had to work hard, and I also was somebody who faced some kind of challenges when defending this case. Once, when I was coming from Yaoundé last year, I was stabbed by armed robbers. I don't know whether they were attached to the case or not, but I went through hardship. But since I've sworn in to defend everybody, I continue with the case. And I really want to seize this opportunity to also express my heartfelt gratitude to the colleagues who attended to me, with whom we did the job in Yaoundé, Senior Barrister Pienjo, Desolis, Barrister Mutabene, Barrister Geyi, Barrister Chakunte, with whom we stood on our grounds despite the pressure that was going around. We are satisfied. I'm satisfied for the courage that these judges manifested. You know, life sentence is not something that, or death penalty is not something that is common in our land, even though it is in our legal, the laws of our nation. We are not too familiar with that, but we are satisfied because we saw courageous judges who wanted to tell us that we can still trust in the judicial institution of. I think that there are about 3 messages that somebody can grasp from this decision. The first of all is that nobody is above the law in our land. Secondly, they want to bring others to know that Cameroon is still a nation where justice can be rendered. And thirdly, they want to prevent others from carrying out the same acts. If the people the same actions, so they want to prevent, they want to give. Anyway, they are playing their role of helping the nation, the society, to be ruled well. That's what is expected from a justice. And we are so satisfied by the decision that was rendered today.
Nation's outrage meeting a bold court decision there, as you heard in that reaction from one of the legal minds, Barrister Berinu. Now, we shall be coming back to this important story in subsequent editions of News on Equinoxe Television. Now, we take you to information out of Cameroon before coming back to sports to say that Brazzaville, that is Congo-Brazzaville, provisional results announced incumbent President Denis Sassou winner of the presidential election held on Sunday, March the 15th, 2026, with over 94% of the vote count. Voters' turnout was over 84%. The announcement was made by the Interior Minister Raymond Mbutu. Denis Sassou Nguesso will begin his 5th term as president of Congo-Brazzaville, a Central African nation. We have this and other interesting news roundup out of Cameroon with our reporter Sedi Chakochu.
The Republic of Congo's President Denis Sassou Nguesso has been re-elected for a fifth consecutive term, according to provisional results announced on Tuesday by the authorities. Sassou Nguesso won 94.82% of the vote proclaimed by Interior Minister Raymond Zephirin Boulou. The Interior Minister reported a turnout of 84.65% and 2.6 million ballots cast. But many polling stations in the capital, Brazzaville, saw short or non-existent lines as locals say they did not believe the election would result in a change in leadership from Sassou Nguesso, who has ruled for 42 years. Sassou Nguesso, running for the Congolese Party of Labour, first came to power in 1979 and ruled until 1992, when he organized the country's first multi-party elections. He returned to power as a militia leader following a 4-month civil war in 1997. Elsewhere, on the 19th day of the conflict in the Middle East, Israel continues to strike Beirut and southern Lebanon, a Hezbollah stronghold. On the 18th of March, Israel claimed to have killed Iranian intelligence minister Ismail Khatib. And on Tuesday evening, Tehran confirmed the death of the head of the Supreme National Security Council, Ali Lunjarni, vowing to avenge his death.
And on to sports, we talk what's been rocking the sports milieu across the African continent, the decision to deprive Senegal of its title taken recently in the nation of Morocco. And the government of Senegal has described CAF's decision of dethroning the Teranga Lions of their championship title won this year as unjustified. According to the government spokesperson, the government of Senegal is set to put in place resources to start an international investigation on suspected corruption within the Confederation of African Football, CAF. The reaction from Senegal comes after CAF's appeal commission crowned Morocco as African champions for the 2025 AFCON. Smart Njikangebre has more in the following report.
Senegal beat Morocco 1-0 in the final on 18 January 2026 in a match that was overshadowed when Senegalese players refused to play after the hosts were awarded a stoppage time penalty with the match goalless. Following a delay of about 17 minutes, the players did eventually return and Brahim Diaz's penalty was saved before Senegal's Pape Gueye scored an extra time winner. These results have been overturned after a decision by an appeal board at the African football's governing body. CAF's appeal commission on Tuesday said Senegal had been declared to have forfeited the final match, with the results of the match being recorded as 3-0 in favor of Morocco. According to CAF, Senegal infringed on Article 82 of regulations of the Africa Cup of Nations, and as a result, Article 84 became applicable. Article 82 states that if a team refuses to play or leaves the ground before the end of regulation time without the referee's authorization, it will be considered the loser and eliminated from the competition, while Article 84 complements the provision stating that any team that violates Article 82 will be permanently eliminated and will lose the match 3-0. In reaction to CAF's appeal commission, the Royal Moroccan Football Federation said its decision to appeal against the final result was never intended to challenge the sporting performance of the teams, but was a request for the application of the competition's regulation. The federation reaffirms its commitment to respecting the rules, ensuring clarity in the competitive framework, and maintaining stability within African competitions. Senegal, on its part, accepted receiving the notification but rejects the decision of the Appeals Commission, saying it's unfair, unprecedented, and unacceptable. They say the decision will disrupt African football. The Senegalese Football Federation has appealed the latest decision at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS.
Interesting how it is unfolding. And that was all we had time for on the primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Great thanks to our technical and production team Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. We urge you to stay in the company of interesting programs on your #1 television network, Equinoxe. Our next edition of news will be in the French language. That will be at 8 p.m. As for me, rendezvous is taken for tomorrow, same time, on same platform. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.